Uh, yeah. Welcome to this webinar 5, Exploratory Action Research Online Training for Nepalese EFL Teachers. And we all are lucky, let's say, we have completed 4 series and right now we are in webinar 5. And again, as usual, Lakshman sir, me, myself, Suman sir, we are facilitating this process of exploratory action research through whatever means possible. And today, luckily, we have Puspa Raj Paudel sir as well, who will be presenting or who will be sharing his entire research process so far he has conducted. So we'll be learning from him, and we'll also get some of your updates through text message so that we can see like how you are progressing as well. So basically, we'll talk about progress this in this webinar, and in webinar 6 and 7, which we'll be mentioning later. Primarily, this will be dealt by Lakshman sir as well. How we'll proceed further. So that's it. Uh, Without much delay, I would like to quickly overview what we have done so far in session 1 on February 23rd. Basically, in let's say primarily in webinar, we discussed induction and introduction of exploratory action research. Similarly, in March 23rd, that was session 2. We discussed how we do it, how we carry exploratory action research, and what can be our issues or puzzles. And basically, Saloni Nemafuki, she shared her experience then. Uh, in April 27, it was for the third session, we again discussed how the issue or puzzle was identified, framings, how to frame the exploratory research questions, and then we had Pusparaj Bhatt and Pema Kalabhushal Pandey ma'am who shared their experiences in session third. Then in session 4, we had guest presenter Tirtha Karki from Sunsari who shared much on research instruments which can be deployed to conduct research, basically the first phase of research, that is exploration. And today in session 5, we'll be talking about we'll be talking about research and the kind of exploration that we have made so far. So we'll basically learn your updates on the exploration phase. So today we have Pusparaj Paudel, sir. Yes, sir, you can start.
Thank you. Good afternoon and warm welcome to you all to this brief presentation on students' reluctance in using English in classroom and exploratory action research. My name is Pusparaj Paudel. I'm a teacher of English at Sainik Avasiya Mahavidyalaya, Sallagari, Bhaktapur. Let me take this beautiful opportunity to express my sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Lakshman Gewali, Mr. Sagun Shrestha, and Mr. Suman Laudari for creating this precious platform of learning new things virtually for the EFL teachers from various parts of Nepal teaching at different levels. I'm equally indebted to you all for this beautiful opportunity to share my experiences of exploratory action research. My presentation outline, my understanding about exploratory action research. Uh, uh, Exploratory action research is a new field for me, though I have studied some theoretical knowledge about action research in various courses of my academic study. Practical knowledge I lacked, so I am more than happy to be part of this webinar as well as this exploratory action research journey. Uh, And in this presentation, I would also like to uh, share how I explored the problem. Then I want to talk about problem context. Then research questions that I have prepared based on the problem faced in the classroom. Then I have, since my students of grade 11 and 12 had session break, I could not collect data. That's why I wrote some part of introduction section and literature review of the same problem related to the problem. My understanding about exploratory action research. Exploratory action research in itself is an effective way to address and cope with difficult circumstances. Because we teachers have heavy teaching loads, we teach 6-7 periods a day. We have 40-50 students in our classrooms. Our classrooms are not connected with internet. We don't have technology. Different facilities are not available in the classes. Even in some parts of Nepal, the classrooms do not have electricity facility. So in such context, we have lots of problems. So exploratory action research, what I have understood, helps to a greater extent to cope up with these kind of problems for effective teaching and learning practice. It enables teachers to gain a better understanding of classroom context to develop more appropriate ways. Uh, it is carried out within the teaching time by the teachers themselves. It helps acquire deeper insights and understanding about successful teaching as well as challenges. It refers to stepping back from the present situation and beginning to take a careful look at one problem at a time and spend more time trying to understand the problem itself rather than acting quickly to solve it. Exploratory action research is a way to explore, understand, and potentially change the current practice. It is becoming increasingly valuable not only for language teachers researchers as an important avenue for their own professional development, but also for others, teachers, educators, policymakers, and curriculum designers as a significant source for broadening and deepening their understanding of the classroom and the teaching learning process. Few years back, the universities would not accept the action research as part of research works, but I have heard nowadays even the universities have given good recognition of action researches. So it's a matter of great privilege as well as great happiness for us, those who are involved in teaching learning process. Exploratory action research is helpful in promoting the evolution of the teacher as a reflective practitioner, promoting overall school improvement and school priorities, and promoting a research-oriented professional culture. The rationale behind exploratory action research I understood after going through the literature. Teachers are better placed than outsiders to investigate the specific practical issues they come across in the work, because it is the teachers who involved in their daily teaching and learning activities, so they better understand the problems than outsiders, than any theoreticians, than any philosophers, linguists. So teachers can be better researchers. If it is teachers who are ultimately responsible for tackling problems and implementing solutions, it makes better sense that they are involved in investigating problems and working out solutions. Research is not the exclusive domain of specialists trained for the purpose. Teachers can be researchers too, and teachers understand their problems better than anyone else. That's why teachers can be better researchers of their field. Some of the features. Exploratory action research is undertaken by teachers individually or collaboratively with or without the support of others. It is based on the data that primarily come from teachers' work context, especially their classrooms and schools. It involves systematic collection and analysis of data for a specific purpose, which usually relates to clarifying aspects of teaching or learning or seeking solutions to some problems. So the intention of this kind of action research is to improve the teaching and learning, to make the teaching learning process effective, to enhance the students' learning so as to make them able to perform better. Exploratory action research involves some voluntarism and self-initiative from the teacher researcher. Problem context. My problem context. I selected this problem because my students in the classroom frequently switch to their first language more specifically to Nepali language whenever they get opportunity. Despite strict rules and provisions of various punishment systems, they are often observed not using English language as a means of communication among themselves in and outside the classroom. I would like to share some of the provisions we made in the past to punish those students who spoke any languages other than the English in the school premises. We introduced the ribbon system. Students speaking any language other than the English in the school premises would be given a yellow ribbon to wear for the whole day. Students repeating the same mistake, then they would receive blue ribbon, and for the multiple occurrence of such mistakes, if they spoke other languages than English, then the students had to wear red ribbon the whole week. I also heard that some school would charge certain amount of money as fine for speaking languages other than the English. As a teacher of English, I feel like receiving pressure from different stakeholders. The schools where I worked in the past and the schools where I have been working as a teacher currently are likely to encourage the learners to practice English mandatorily, not only in the classrooms but also in school premises. The parents aspire to use their children speak English correctly and fluently. On contrary to this, majority of students have the tendency to switch to their first language whenever they are out of the teachers and the authorities side. This made me interested toward this problem. How I explored the problem is I came to learn that exploratory action research has two parts: exploration and action. So to explore the problem, these kind of questions triggered my mind because I had realized some kind of problem is there in the classroom, outside the classroom, regarding using English as a means of communication. So these questions came to my mind. I played with them, and finally I reached the conclusion that yes, there is problem in students using English as a means of communication in the school premises, including the classroom. Why do my students reluctant in communicating in English? What is their interest? How have I been inspiring them to speak English? What opportunities do they have to speak in class? How do other colleagues view about my teaching of speaking? How do other teachers take my students' use of English? What do the students think about my use of English in the classroom? What kind of activities are enjoyable to the students? What are the strategies that I should adopt to encourage my students use English to communicate among themselves? Indeed, these questions are not my research questions. Rather, these questions help me explore the real situation that I had. That means the students remaining reluctant in using English as a means of communication. Then sources of information. I explored my problem by writing notes, by writing reflections of my teaching, note from informal conversation with the colleagues. Whenever we would talk, the colleagues would talk in the park, playground, canteen, staff room about the progress of our students, about their use of English as means of communication in school premises, in the classroom. Then I would prepare note. Other people's written ideas on the topic. Similarly, I went through the write-up by the researchers, scholars in this topic, and then I explored that yes, these kind of problems can occur. Exploring others' perception, reflective writing by the students. At the same times, as I came to know that this kind of exploratory action research can be can be carried out during the process of teaching and learning. So in the last 5 minutes of my class, I requested my students to write the problems that they have regarding the use of English as a means of communication inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. So the students gave several points to me. Similarly, notes of chats and informal interviews with individuals. We can interview people's non-participant kind of interviews at any time whenever we meet. So I also did the same, and then I gained some knowledge about this. My colleagues comment about my lesson. Similarly, I also requested that if anything they're lacking in my teaching, so one of my colleagues gave me some comments, feedback regarding my way of speaking in the classroom using English. So this also helped me a lot. Similarly, in day-to-day practice, through observation, we can gain a lot of knowledge about this, which I did. Similarly, talks with the colleagues and so on we did. So lesson recording I have not done since the class will start from this week. Coming week I am going to record the class also. Similarly, students' performance which we have been observing also, and further in a systematic manner I can record this. So these are the real research questions that I have developed to find out why the students are reluctant in using English as a means of communication in the classroom. Why are my students reluctant in communicating in English in and outside the classroom? Similarly, now what are the factors that create barriers to students in using English? What opportunities do they have to speak English in and outside the classroom? What activities can encourage them to speak English? These are some of the research questions that I developed. Then I have methods of data collection. I'm planning to interview the students regarding the problems, obstacles, the factors responsible behind creating barriers from using English as a means of communication to my students. Why they are reluctant in using English as a means of communication? Why they immediately switch to any other language other than the English in the classroom as well as in outside the classroom? Similarly, I want to conduct focus group discussion with the teachers, more specifically to the teachers of English, to my colleagues, and then this has been a genuine problem. Whether this can be a problem or not, and how we can mitigate this problem, how we can help solve this problem, and encourage our students to speak English. I'm planning to carry out this in this way. Similarly, introduction section of this exploratory action research I have written because the students were in session break, so I could not collect data. That's why I did some part of this I want to share. The current boundary of Nepal with the total area of 1,47,181 square kilometer set after the Treaty of Sugauli that was signed on December 2, 1815 and endorsed by March 4, 1816 between the East India Company and the Kingdom of Nepal. In Nepal, there was no formal schooling system until Jang Bahadur Rana, the first Prime Minister of Rana regime, visited England, spent about half a year and learned various valuable skills and ideas which he reflected in Nepal after his return to the country. The English language was one of the ideas he brought in Nepal, and he materialized this by the establishment of Darbar School in 1854. Although it was limited to his family for many years, the English language gradually got its space in multilingual community of Nepal. This way I have written some part of introduction also. Similarly, the history of English language teaching in Nepal begins after the return of Jang Bahadur Rana from his trip to Europe, particularly England. Darbar School, established in 1854 AD by the Prime Minister Jang Bahadur Rana, was the first formal school in Nepal. 2 teachers were invited from England to teach at Darbar School. It was established for the children of Rana's families, and teaching the English language at the school was aimed to make Rana children able to learn about Western culture and access British Empire. Darbar High School initially was confined to Rana and royal family, and only after 1885 the school was opened for general public. Similarly, I have prepared. Similarly, Ministry of Education was established by King Tribhuvan in 1951 for the first time in the history of Nepal. This is written in Wood 1965. In order to plan and promote education in the nation, College of Education was established in 1956 to produce trained workforce to teach at primary and secondary schools. The establishment of the College of Education in 1956 promoted systematic teaching, training in the country. The functions of the College of Education were to prepare secondary teachers, administrators, staff, supervisors, and other educational personnels. Other functional other functions included in-service training to the teachers. Like this, I have prepared some introduction part also. Some literature I have reviewed. This way, I have prepared and in the journey of exploratory action research, when the college school reopens, I am planning to collect the data from my students, and I will go further in this. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently and for this precious platform to share my experiences on exploratory action research. Thank you.
Uh, Thanks a lot, Puspa sir. In fact, there can be confusion to some of you. Today, Puspa sir shared rigorously his literature review. It's more like the research he's carrying out academically as well in the university. So please do not worry. You don't need to. I mean, the other participants, since you have raised multiple questions here, let me go through your questions right now. uh, as Debraj Karki sir, Porsu Srestha sir, yeah, couple of other colleagues have asked, yeah, actually Debraj Karki and Porsu sir, they have asked the questions whether we have to present, uh, whether we have to present such. No, yeah, Lakshman sir, I can hear you.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, I think everybody can hear me.
Yeah.
I think that was a very thorough sort of presentation because Puspaji summarized what actually we wanted to share from the beginning, the theory part, and also the progress that he has made. And some of you were asking in the chat whether you were supposed to talk about the theoretical part and literature review and all, or expected some of you to report the data collection using the instruments that you have made. But when we talked around with some of you, then we felt that, and if you had summer break and you had a term test and things, and then so you had issues. So we thought, so whoever had some theoretical understanding and some literature review, that would help. So we invited Puspasi to share what is done. I think that was useful because from the beginning, we've been talking about what EAR is, and then so that was there. And then now, after his sharing, now I would like to explain what we will be doing next. What are the steps, and also what should be your preparation to do this? So I'm going to explain that. So there you go. Now, yes, what we did today and what we do next. That is the thing that I'm talking about. First, Pushparaj Paudalji presented on what he has done so far, covering very widely on what EAR is and how he understands that and his situation and how he explored and all this. But still, his final exploration using the instruments that he developed, he will be doing soon. And by next webinar 6, that will be on July 27, we expect each of you to explore your situation using the instruments that you have developed to answer the questions, those exploratory questions in your situation. And on that day, we expect, we can't accommodate all. We'll definitely accommodate more than one or two, at least 3, 4 we can. Quickly, we can quickly share with all, and then we can compare how others have done and how you have done or I have done. So this is the plan for next sixth webinar. And after that, 1 month will be on planning the intervention strategies and preparation for the intervention. I just explained this, what we did today and will do next up to August 31st. And then, everyone, please notice this. We have 5 things here that we've listed that you need for your data, exploring your issue. Number one, we believe that you already have a school where you work, or you have got some consent, some kind of consent that you can go and explore in one of the schools. So the school there, and then within this school now, you need one particular class. Yes, I was saying you have a school, you have a class you've agreed with, you have issues and issue or puzzle, and the questions that you wanted to answer by exploring your situation. And you have the strategies to collect data and specific instruments or tools. So with embark, if you haven't, some of you, we now hear that you've tried, but this month you really need to work on this. And next, explore your situation by deploying your instruments. Then what you need to do, here are a few very specific things, minor things, but they make a lot of difference. Let us see what instrument that you have. Your plan for. Do you have interview in your plan, or observation, or survey, or focus group discussion, on reflections, or you want to note down informal conversation with your colleagues? For this, you need something for each thing. Let me begin from the beginning. For the interview, you need, we believe you have them, some of you shared, and a notebook to record the responses. And if possible, a recorder to record your response. That would be great because you'll not, but for recording, you don't need a special device. You just use your mobile phone. It comes very handy. The only mistake we make while interviewing on a mobile device is we have that call permission. So what you need to do is you need to lock you need to go to airplane mode. And when you do that, then you'll not receive any calls. And by mistake, if you do, then you have to restart your recorder. Otherwise, it will have stopped. Anyway, so use that. For observation, a notebook. You are going to the class and observe. If you are observing others' class, or if you are having another colleague to observe your class, this, and then whoever observes, then a notebook is fine. And as you sit down to observe some layout, what the teacher says, what the learners say, their expressions, their movements, how they react, everything. And relate what you write to your research issue. Not everything, but your research issue. And some of you have proposed survey. So for this, you need questions with multiple choice answers, or options, or maybe something to write, one word or two. Do not go beyond 20 questions, but less than 10 may not give you a clear picture. So between 10 to 20 is fine, but you make enough copies for all the students and teachers or other people who you want to get the data from. And if it is focus group discussion, you need 5 people, minimum 4, maximum 8. 6 is ideal. And you can have 5. And with those people, you need to talk first that they are participating in a focus group discussion, and then probing questions. Probing questions means you do not have a specific question. You simply say, our students do not speak English in school premises, although we want them.
It's something, anything you have to say, something like that. Very generic question that prompts the discussion. And you need a notebook to record, and if possible, a recorder to record their responses, and use the mobile phone, as I said earlier. And you please write down anything that comes to your head by seeing something, by experiencing something, or just thoughts come to your head, then you write that. So write in a sentence or a word, anything, or sometimes if you have image, draw it, then that reflection will be a very good data for your report later. And if you talk to the colleagues and then you have something to record, so again, a notebook is fine. So with these tools and preparation, we believe that you will be able to collect data that will directly respond to the research questions that you have. And remember, even our government lately has issued a lot of ethical issues while dealing with the minors. So in research, we need to be very careful. There are many other things, but 3 things we want you to be very careful, because you want to successfully undertake this research. Does not mean you use any force on children. You cannot blackmail them. You cannot shout at them. You cannot say anything. You just need to deal in a normal way, as you do usually, and there should be no harm to them because you are doing this, and because you ask questions, so they should not feel humiliated or anything. So no harm, no force. Plus, in the beginning, you can write the names of the participants, the children, and your colleagues. You can write in your notebook. You can take photos, but when you take photos, please take some photos with face not seen clearly. But for your own purpose, you can take photos, but you cannot publicize them. And if you really need to have photos in your report, then please have written consent from everyone. But if you're working with very small children, then maybe parents' consent or your head teacher's consent is a must. Otherwise, you are not in any case supposed to show any identity of children with their name and with their pictures or anything that shows who they are. So use pseudonym. So I think that's clear. Now, finally, a few things that we would like to request you. From the beginning, we have been asking you to read this book. There are other things you can read, but this particular book, which is designed for our purpose, actually, Exploratory Action Research, this handbook, written by Richard Smith and Paula. So please read this, and as you read, don't read the whole thing. Read the part where you are. Now you know you are in exploration phase. You are not in intervention phase, you are in exploration phase. So how to do, what to do, all these steps and things. And a few weeks ago, we wrote to you asking for information in the table. So if you have not, some of you did, if you have not, please go back to the email and download the table, fill in your information, send that back to us, because we would like to communicate with you better and then contact you in other modes, maybe telephone and things. So please send us the table as soon as possible. Maybe today is Saturday, it doesn't take more than 20 minutes, so or maybe next half an hour. Please help us to learn about your situation. Now, we have all this to share with you. So we will be seeing you on July 27 at this time, 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Nepal time. And when you will come online that day, we expect, you are expected to come with the outcomes of the issue exploration. Means the data that you get using those interview, observation, and other strategies. Record, note everything. If you remember something later, write reflections, but use all sorts of tools that you have developed, and then try to see your situation in a different light. So with this, I think we've come to the end of our webinar today.